So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. You get back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Friday, March 25th. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Friday, March 25th here today. Coming off another big night last night in the world of sports. We had some March Madness on. Down goes number one Arizona. Down goes number one Gonzaga. Arkansas, Houston, and Villanova move on to the Elite Eight, as tonight we got more games on. We got the magical run of St. Peter's. We'll see if that continues tonight against a very good team in Purdue, led by Jaden Ivey, the Purdue Boilermakers, who have had a great season. We got Kansas, Providence tonight, which should be a very fun one as well. I think Providence is going to win that one. I know some people, there's some people that I know, obviously, a lot of people have Kansas going all the way. I don't. Yesterday at Duke, so yesterday the four teams that moved on were Duke over Texas Tech, Arkansas over Gonzaga, Houston over Arizona, and Nova over Michigan. And today, the four games are Purdue St. Peter's, which is going to kick us off, which I'm pumped up for that game. Like, I'm excited for that game because I just want to see a good game, right? I hope that this is one of these games that, goes into, I'm excited for that one. Kansas, Providence, UCLA, UNC, North Carolina, obviously, UCLA, North Carolina, and Miami and Iowa State, a 10 and 11 seed. We're going to go battle it out to go to the Elite Eight. That's just crazy to think that a 10 and 11 seed are currently battling it out to get to the Elite Eight. I'm not sure. I don't think many people have that in their bracket. I did have USC getting to the Sweet 16. But not Miami or Iowa State. So, some more games on today in the March Madness. I apologize for not doing a pod yesterday. Like I said, this is my year. This is the time of year where I play baseball. So I've practiced every single day. So I apologize for not doing a pod yesterday. Just didn't have the time, couldn't find the time. Like I said, these pods are I work around with the schedule. I love doing these. I try to do one as much as I can every single day. I'm going to try my best to do one every day. Some days I can't do it because also you got to realize at night I watch the games. Like, I'm not going to do a pod during the Nets game or a Rangers game or when the Yankees season really gets up and going, in April and all the way throughout, May and all that stuff. I'm not going to do a pod during the game. I'm going to watch the game, and I'm going to, watch the game and root on my team. Yankees, I'm going to watch the game and do the scorebook, so I'm not going to do a pod during the game. So that always kind of affects it a little bit. But anyway, doing a pod today, got some time. Not going to be a long one at all, kind of just, cap off a week here. I wanted to talk about one main topic, which is why I wanted to make sure I got one done today. One main topic today. Tonight we got the Rangers on. They'll be at home at the Garden against the Pittsburgh Penguins, trying to bounce back of what was an ugly performance that we want to forget about Wednesday, which was at Wednesday at Prudential Center. So we want to forget about that. Rangers tonight, or was that Tuesday? I feel like that was Tuesday. Was that Tuesday at the Prudential? Yeah, that was Tuesday at Prudential Center. That was Tuesday. Tonight, Rangers. Penguins tonight at the Garden. Knicks Heat will be Knicks on the road against Miami Heat. Heat, kind of funny scheduling thing. Not really a scheduling weird thing, but it is kind of funny and ironic that tonight Heat play the Knicks tonight, and in the second half, the back-to-back tomorrow, they play the Nets at home. So back-to-back home games, back-to-back games against both New York basketball teams. So a little bit of a funny scheduling thing there. Yankees already played today, and the Mets will play later on a little bit here at 6:05 Eastern against the Astros at their spring training stadium in Florida. Alrighty, so let's get to the podcast today. One topic in a New York sports update, if you want to call that a topic. I do that every day, so we'll finish off with that. I'm going to talk about the New York City vaccine mandate getting lifted. I know this is Probably you're wondering yourself, if you're somebody that hasn't really paid much attention to the vaccine mandate in New York, you're probably wondering to yourself, why are you talking about something that's not sports related? But this is very much so sports related. So New York City Mayor Eric Adams has officially, yesterday had a press conference at Citi Field officially declaring the vaccine mandate, the private sector mandate that was preventing Kyrie Irving playing home games, that was going to prevent unvaccinated Yankees and Mets players to play home games, officially got dropped, officially got lifted, and we are finally here today, where the Kyrie will be able to play home games. That game Sunday at home will be his first home game since last year. Kyrie will be able to play all home games. We aren't too sure of how many Yankees or Mets players are vaccinated or unvaccinated, but they will be able to play home games either way. And finally, all this craziness, I think one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life is finally over with. Vaccine mandate lifted. Yankees, Mets, Kyrie Irving, all free. All the players, regardless of the vaccination status, will be able to play at home at Citi Field, at Yankee Stadium, and at Barclays Center are the main three teams that are kind of being involved in this. All the other ones have not really had any issues. All the other ones are fully vaccinated. Yankees, Mets, and Kyrie have been kind of the front and center of this all. And then we'll get to the New York sports update. Like I said, Rangers, Nets tonight. Rangers, Knicks, and I apologize. Nets tomorrow night. Islanders with a day off today. So Nets tomorrow night. Tomorrow night on the road against the Heat. They'll be on the road, and so they'll be at the Heat tomorrow. Then they'll have a back-to-back. Front end of a back-to-back will be tomorrow, Sunday night. They'll be at home. Kyrie's first home game of the season. Pretty fired up for that. I think he's going to get a pretty loud ovation. I think people are going to be excited. And as a Net fan, this is kind of really officially now. There's no more excuses. No more excuses. The excuses was eliminated when KD returned back, and we've been playing much better. Now the excuses are officially eliminated. Kyrie is back. There is no excuses of, he's only playing home games or road games. No. You got to win now. You got to win. And maybe there's that one tiny excuse that Ben Simmons still was in the lineup, but hopefully he'll be in the lineup soon rather than later. So, anyway, lot to get to in a short amount of time here. This is BSN Podcast, and let's get right into it. Alrighty, so New York City mayor expected to lift the COVID-19 vaccine mandate, and impacting Kyrie Irving and more. Yes, you have heard that right. Months and months and months, really ever since the beginning of the season, we've all been wondering when Kyrie will be able to play games, when Kyrie will be able to play at home, if Kyrie would be able to play at all. Obviously, he began to play road games a couple months ago. It has been going. It's definitely weird. It's odd, but when he's in the lineup, he's an impact player. He's a big time. He's an impact player. He makes big time plays. And you might be wondering to yourself, like I've said, why are you talking about something that's not really fully sports related? Well, this is very sports related. This is something that is extremely sports related, something that directly affected my sports teams, my favorite, the players on my favorite teams directly. And as we all know, this whole COVID situation is it's a political thing. It's a very political situation. So I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty politics of this all. Wherever you stand on the vaccine, whether you like it, whether you hate it, whether you think there should be vaccine mandates, whether you don't think it, whether you don't care at all, and you're kind of like me where you just want all your team, you just want players to play at home, Kyrie to play at home, that's kind of where I stand on this. I just want to see Kyrie playing home games, and I want to see all Yankees and Mets players, regardless of the vaccine status, playing at home. Because the mandate, and I get it, they put the mandates in at first, and they were a little bit different a couple months ago. But the mandate now that they had was this kind of private sector mandate, which was like stadiums and stuff. It was super, super odd. It really made no sense. It was really kind of stupid. And finally that it's over with, that's where we can all now celebrate. But the dumbest part of this all, and why as a sports fan, specifically a New York sports fan, I know some other, I know it's happening in, Canada and stuff, but as a sports fan, as a New York sports fan, it's a big sigh of relief because the mandate, the protocol to the vaccine mandate was the dumbest thing ever. So Kyrie Irving, to give you an example, And I'm going to kind of talk about, what now the Nets go from here, how he's going to impact the team, and I'll get to the Yankees and the Mets as well because I want to touch upon them as well and how this affects them, and also get into some specific players that have kind of popped up throughout all this conversation. But Kyrie Irving, when this private sector mandate it was the whole thing. And a couple weeks ago, about a week or two ago, he was officially allowed, non-vaccinated people were allowed inside stadiums. So inside the Garden, once Yankees and Mets, once Yankee Stadium and Citi Field open up and, the Bronx and Queens, once the opening day hits, all, unvaccinated fans can go in there. Prior to that wasn't the case. But now it's unvaccinated workers, unvaccinated, all that stuff can go in there and do all that. So Kyrie, and this is where it was kind of like the point where it wasn't even frustration at that point, you just had to laugh. Kyrie was allowed to go inside Barclays Center. By the way, this is all their stuff too. He's allowed to practice with the team on the road. He flies with the team. He's with the team on the road. He's allowed to practice to the team at home, with the team at home. They recently lifted one of the mandates for that, so he was allowed to practice with the team at home, all that stuff. But at Barclays Center, he was allowed to go in there unvaccinated, without a mask on, sit courtside, right near the action, right near the players, but wasn't allowed to play. But he was in the locker room at halftime. He was practicing with them. He's on the road with them already. He was allowed to be inside the building without a mask on in the crowd, but wasn't allowed to play. And that was the biggest, dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, you're allowed to be in the building without a mask on, talking freely, roaming freely. Not like there was an unvaccinated section and a vaccinated section. He was allowed to be amongst anybody. And he was in the locker room with the team at halftime, but he wasn't allowed to play. And that was the biggest frustration, because it was like, sure, and I don't like the verdict of, just get vaccinated. Well, look, and I know everybody's got their side to this. It's a personal decision. So that was Kyrie's decision not to get vaccinated. That was his decision. And there's no other way to put it. Like that was his decision. You can't blame a guy. You can't rip a guy. You can't yell at a guy for a personal decision. Everyone's allowed to make them. You're allowed to make a personal decision if you want them. I know, it's almost like signing in free agency. That's your own decision. That's not a team's decision. That's the player's decision. If a guy signs a free agency, sure, you might be upset with him, but is anyone going to blame him for signing there, or is anyone going to say, terrible? I mean, maybe they will, but maybe it's not a fair comparison but you have the choice. It's not like you have to get it or you had to get the vaccine. He had the choice, and it's also, religiously and stuff, what he believes in, and he didn't get it. So that was the biggest frustrating part as a fan. It's like, he's allowed to be in the arena, he's allowed to do all that stuff, but he can't play. And when he's only able to play road games and it affects your team in a negative way, that was super frustrating. And I think the biggest boiling point was when ESPN saw it. When he was walking into the stadium, when he was walking into the crowd, going to his seats without a mask on. And the night before, he was at Barclays for the ACC tournament watching his alma mater, Duke, in action with Coach K over there at Barclays during the ACC tournament. This was prior to March Madness. The night before, he was there without a mask on. Next day, Nets-Knicks had a day game at Barclays, was there without a mask on. He was allowed to be there. It wasn't like he was breaking any rules, but he wasn't allowed to play. That was the dumbest thing. So the fact that they dropped, that's huge. Now you get Kyrie Irving back, who is a pivotal piece to this team. Pivotal might be an understatement. KD's great. He's a very good player, but Kyrie, we need Kyrie. Because if you haven't seen it, KD's been getting double teamed a lot. I mean, teams just been, full half-court pressure. Gets across the line, they trap him, send two guys at him. Gets the ball in the post. You have a guy come from his left, come to his right. You have a big man and maybe a guard come behind him and kind of try to, trap him and box him out. And that's been frustrating at times. So now that Kyrie's back, it's going to take the attention off of KD. It's, we know what Kyrie's capable of. He had 60 points the other night. I mean, he had 60 points. Kyrie's one of the best basketball players in the NBA right now, and there's no arguing it. And if you want to argue it, well, you're going to lose the argument because you have no stats to back it up. The stats show you this season when he's played, he's been pivotal. This season when he's played, the Nets have done much better. And the reality is, now that we have him at home just in time for the postseason is huge. And you just got to hope that we can avoid the plan with Toronto in Toronto because he still won't be able to play there. But this is a huge step in the right direction for Kyrie Irving and the rest. And for the Yankees and the Mets, that's 81 games you're playing at home. So if this mandate was never lifted, you're telling me, let's say Judge isn't vaccinated. You're telling me Judge is going to miss 81 games at home, not going to be able to play at home? Plus a little bit more that's going to be on the road. So you're going to miss the 81 games at home, and then what, the 9 that you play on the road or 10 that you play on the road? I don't know how many exactly in your division, because then you'll be in Toronto. So that's like almost 100 games you would miss for Judge. Just giving an example. If Jacob deGrom, you're telling me that the mandate, if it never got lifted, you're telling me if the mandate stayed as was, you're telling me Jacob deGrom, by the way, would be allowed to be in the stadium, but wouldn't be able to pitch for any of the home games, would just be able to pitch for the road games. Not only would that mess up deGrom, but that would mess up your whole rotation. Because there's some times where you might have a 3-game set on the road and you don't pitch. It's not like Judge where he's playing every day. deGrom might pitch the final game of a homestand and then not pitch at all. So that messes up your whole rotation because then you got to figure out when to fit deGrom in and where. So, and that goes for any player. Garrett Cole, deGrom, Scherzer. Imagine if he wasn't vaccinated. So the fact that they dropped this is huge, and it's exciting. Finally, Eric Adams stepped up to the plate, and he clearly doesn't care about the sports teams. He clearly doesn't. And the reality is you don't really, you don't even want to see him at the team parade if anybody ever wins a championship because he clearly doesn't care. This should have been something that was done 3 months ago. This should have been something that was really never put in place in the first place. This whole private sector mandate. I mean, it was one of the dumbest things ever. Fact that you could practice with the team, be in the stadium, but can't play, it doesn't make sense. So finally, it's over with. We're finally getting back to normal in the world of just being more free in terms of what you're able to do, specifically with the athletes being able to play home games. And for the Yankees and for the Mets, you don't got to worry about your star players missing 81 plus games, and you don't have to worry about your pitchers missing every single home start. If you're going to make 30 starts a year, you don't have to worry about your pitchers only making 10, 15 this season. So, it really would have come down to if they never got this done, it really would have come down to, Judge and other guys playing 55 games. 60 games, because, you got to admit, too, they still might have days off in between even when they're on the road, but, the same thing will happen with Kyrie, but it's even worse in baseball because it's 162. Kyrie, missed a lot, but it's 82. It's a whole different, it's completely different new, numbers there in terms of 162 to playing 82. Pretty much, if you were a Yankee player, or a Met player, and you were a position player, you're telling me that the Mets would be okay with Pete Alonso not playing 81 games? You would be okay? It's bad enough when guys get injured, everyone ripping them. Plus, if they get, and that's another thing too, if you were to get hurt and you only play 20 games, because it's like, it just wouldn't work. So, finally it's over with. And we don't have to worry about that as Yankee fans or Met fans waiting for the first day at the stadium to see who's in the lineup and who's not and who's vaccinated, who isn't. And we'll see. And I bring up Judge because, number one, he's a big name athlete. Number one, he's the face of the franchise with the Yankees. And number two, they asked him about the vaccine and he didn't give a yes or no answer. And I tell you about deGrom because of how pivotal he is. And when he's not out there, we saw when he's injured, it hurts the team a lot. So it's finally over with. The dumbest, I think, thing ever made up, ever, is over with. And for New York sports fans, you could breathe a big sigh of relief. For baseball fans, we could breathe a big sigh of relief. Come April 7th, Yankees and Mets players will be able to play at home, regardless of the vaccine status, and hopefully put on a show for all of us fans out there. So, finally, it's over with, and just in time for the final stretch of the season into the postseason for the Brooklyn Nets and Kyrie Irving playing home games. So definitely a sigh of relief, and definitely something that was long overdue. Alrighty, so we're just going to read this quick little article here, nothing major. The New York City Mayor Eric Adams reportedly will reverse the private sector vaccine mandate specifically for performers and athletes in New York City on Thursday, according to Sally Goldenberg of Politico. That would mean that unvaccinated players like Kyrie Irving would once again be eligible to play home games in Brooklyn's Barclays Center just in time for the upcoming NBA playoffs. It would also mean that unvaccinated players on the New York Yankees and New York Mets would be eligible to play home games when the MLB season begins in April. New York City's private sector vaccine mandate has meant that area workers, arena workers, and New York-based athletes and performers cannot work if they were unvaccinated. However, visiting players are not required to be vaccinated, and mandate requiring fans to be vaccinated ended on March 7th. That's another thing, too. So if you're an opposing player, let's say, I don't know. Let me think of a team. Let's say you're a Celtics player. We'll just roll with the Celtics. Or the Heat. Nets playing Heat tomorrow. So if you are a Heat player, let's say Jimmy Butler is unvaccinated. I don't know if he is or not, so don't quote me on that. But I'm just using him as an example because he's the big name over there. Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo, whoever, pick whoever. Jimmy Butler, let's just say he was unvaccinated. He could still go into Barclays Center where Kyrie can't play because he's unvaccinated, but since he's a road player, he could go in and play. That in itself makes no sense because an unvaccinated road player can play, but a home player that's unvaccinated can't. It's still an unvaccinated player playing out there. So it made no sense. It made zero sense whatsoever. Irving attended a Nets game at Barclays Center as a fan sitting courtside. Kevin Durant publicly called out Adams after the contest. This is what Kevin Durant said after the game that Sunday afternoon against the Knicks. We're all confused. Pretty much everybody in the world is confused at this point. Early on in this season, people didn't understand what was going on, but now it just looks stupid. Eric, you got to figure this out. So they finally figured it out. Adams' response was simple. Irving could always just get the vaccine. That's what he said. New York City's former COVID-19 senior advisor and former CDC employee Jay Varmus criticized the reported rollback of the mandate for athletes and performers. I think the same rules on vaccination should apply uniformly to all, he said per Goldenberg. If there's a carve-out for this group, why can't any other group then raise its hand and say, I deserve a carve-out too? Basically, it sends a message that this is an arbitrary rule, that if you're rich enough and powerful enough and high-profile enough that you don't have to play the same rules as everyone else. Which I think, for the city in general, they should lift it all. It's not fair to the other people, other employees in the city that aren't athletes. Irving initially remained away from the team entirely amidst the NYC mandate, though Brooklyn eventually brought him back for road games only. The Nets, 38-34, have gone 8-11 in 19 games. Irving has been eligible to play this season, though a number of those games came when Durant was out injured between mid-January and early March. In that stretch, Brooklyn went just 3-9 when Irving was available. So now that Irving is available with Kevin Durant, they're 5-2 since that. So finally, it's over. It's done with. The vaccine is lifted, and we are going to get all of our athletes playing at home this season. All right, so let's get to the New York sports update and finish this off. Tonight, like I said, 4 March Madness games. We got Purdue and St. Peter's. In my bracket, I took Purdue, so I think one of my brackets, I have St. Peter's going all the way, but I think Purdue's going to win tonight. I think St. Peter's' magical runs comes to an end. I just don't think anybody can stop Jaden Ivey. I mean, the Purdue is just a all-around, well-rounded team. Kansas, Providence, I'm actually taking the underdog. I had Providence beating Kansas. Not a big believer in Kansas this season. I know a lot of people are. I think Providence take care of business, Ed Cooley and company. UCLA, North Carolina. I have UCLA in one of my brackets, North Carolina in the other. I'd probably venture to say UCLA, but I could see North Carolina pulling this off because UCLA is one of those teams that if they have an off night, they can be beat by just about anybody. And North Carolina, when they're on, they can be one of the better teams in the March Madness remaining. So, one of those interesting ones. And Miami and Iowa State, I'm going to take Miami. Roll with them against Iowa State tonight and get a 10 seed inside the Elite 8. Tonight for the NBA, we got the Jazz and Hornets. I'll take the Jazz. Pistons, Wizards, I'll take the Pistons. Hawks, Warriors, I'll take the Warriors. Knicks, Heat, I'm going to take the Heat. Timberwolves, Magic, I'll take the Timberwolves. Rockets, Trailblazers, I'll take the Rockets. And 76ers, Clippers, I'll take the 76ers. 5 NHL games on tonight. We got the Sabres, Capitals. I'll take the Capitals. Jets, Blue Jackets. I'll take the Jets. Coyotes, Flames. I'll take the Flames. And Avalanche, Flyers. I'll take the Avalanche. Rangers, Penguins tonight at the Garden. Rangers come into this one 40-19-5. Penguins come into this one 39-16-10. This game, the over/under is set at 6. This game's on tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find it on MSG and NHL Network. 47% of people in the Rangers will win. 53% think the Penguins. I'll take the Rangers. Bounce back. And as for baseball, today the Yankees lost 6-5 in Clearwater against the Phillies. So they moved to 2-5-1 in spring training now. Mets just began against the Astros. End of the first inning, no score. And we got the Padres, Dodgers. I'll take the Dodgers. And White Sox, Mariners. I'll take the Mariners. White Sox, why not? And as for fantasy basketball, things continue to go pretty well in the world of fantasy. I'm currently winning 1,918 to 1,239. Today I've got going Miles Bridges, John Collins, Tyrese Maxey, and Kelly Oubre. By the way, Sunday night is my fantasy baseball draft. So on Sunday night's my fantasy baseball draft. So Sunday morning when I do my Bubs Talking Baseball podcast on Apple Podcasts, I will be doing my fantasy rankings. So my fantasy baseball rankings. So if you're interested in seeing that, you can check out Bubs Talking Baseball on Apple Podcasts. That will be every Sunday morning throughout the season. So I'm going to give you my rankings there. Super pumped up. Last year, first ever year playing fantasy baseball, went 11-10 on the regular season, finished second place. This year, my second year, I know what I got to do better. Last year, I was a little too thin on pitching. The person that I played in the finals beat me because their pitching was dominant. My pitching, it was a rookie mistake. I loaded kind of up on hitters and didn't load as much up on pitchers, and my pitchers kind of just ran out of gas late in the season. So this year, I got to make sure load up on pitchers because they're huge. 30, 40 points if you can get them a night. So I also had some injuries with the pitching as well. So hopefully we could do that. So that's Sunday night for me. And other than that, just going to enjoy another weekend full of sports. So that will do it for another week here. I know I missed a couple days, but still able to get one in this Friday to cap off the week. As y'all know, take breaks on the weekends. So I will be back Monday. As always, enjoy all the March Madness action, Sweet 16, Elite 8, all that great stuff tonight and into tomorrow and the rest of the weekend. All the great sports that are on. Some more spring training baseball. I think I'm going to, most likely I'm doing the scorebook for Yankees Pirates game. Figure, get that out for the first one of the year. Get some spring training scorebook action in. Love doing the scorebook. Try to do as many games as I can. Really, every game I'm watching, I'm scorebooking. I do the scorebook, so looking forward to that. Probably plan on doing that on Sunday. Get, kind of just knock off the rust a little bit and get a spring training, scoring in. That will do it. If you guys want to check me out on Sunday, that will be Sunday, every Sunday, Bubs Talking Baseball on Apple Podcasts. So that will be Sunday. But as for this, have a good weekend. I will see you all on the flip side. See you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.